ladies go first. Ms. Felicia, would you like to come up here, please? Good morning. Good morning. My name is Felicia, best recovering addict. First and foremost, let me thank God for everything, and for the program of Narcotics Anonymous for Another Day Clean. And we do grow with love convention for allowing me to share here today my experience, strength, and hope. You know, when I first came to Camp Mac, I'm just going to reflect back. When I first came to Camp Mac, I had 6 months clean. You know, I stand here today with almost 11 years clean. You know, this is the spiritual thing here, y'all. You know, ain't nothing like it. You know, my topic is unconditional love. You know, and I was trying to, you know how you go over your head, trying to think of what you're going to say and all that, whatever. You know, but God allowed me to say what needs to be said today. And I was thinking about unconditional love. But prior to me getting here to the program of Narcotics Anonymous, really didn't know what love was. I come from a family where it was 8 of us. And me being the 5th child, and I was the baby for the longest of my mother's children. So when she had another child, you know, that took the love away, right? And I realized now that I had a lot of resentments with that, you know, because I missed out on a whole lot of stuff. You know, my mother wasn't the type of woman that, you know, got me money, I love you, right? We didn't get that, you know, so I wasn't taught that. I just knew that she loved us, you know, and I did a lot of things to compete for her love. You know, when I was young in elementary school, I always got kicked out. So if I got kicked out, then she would come to the school and see me, you know. And that's how I did. I mean, I'm doing it for years, you know. But like I said, when I got older, I realized all the stuff I did as a child was because I was missing out on love, you know. And out of all my other children, I was the one that ended up on drugs, you know. And you know, and it's painful living without love, or thinking nobody love you, or not, or don't know how to love. You know, and then I got into a marriage. Well, he said he loved me, yeah, and then I ended up getting beat through the whole marriage and all that. You know, a lot of stuff I experienced before I came to the program of Narcotics Anonymous. You know, and a lot of things that happened to me. You know, and I always share this about the drugs. I didn't write down what I wanted to be in life, right? But I sure didn't write down I was going to be a crackhead, a drug addict, you know. That wasn't my plan. But circumstances and situations led to me to the dope, you know, being abused, being sexually abused and all that stuff, you know, and coming out of that marriage. And I just wanted somebody to love me, you know. And so I started hanging out with a group of people, and like they were having fun. They was, you know, and so they kept going into this room. I said, why they keep running in this room? You know, and I'm sitting out there, they leave me out here, why are they in the room? You know, I went in that room in 1988, and I came out in 2003. You know, that was a long time. But they love me, hell, you know, but because, so I thought, you know, because, you know, as long as we're getting high, we straight, we love each other. But kind of found out they didn't love me, they loved what I was doing. You know, it wasn't until I came into the program of Narcotics Anonymous and began to meet people like me, you know, some with the same stories like me, you know, and found out that I found some true love in the program of Narcotics Anonymous, you know, because, you know, what you learn as a child, you know, you grow up with that stuff, you know, so the same thing my mom did to me, I did to my sons, you know, I never told them I loved them. You know, I just realized that maybe they just knew it. But my sons are different from me, you know, because they always tell me, Mom, I love you. You know, even through the addiction, my children still love me, you know. But I came here and y'all allowed me to be me, regardless of what I had been through, what I had done, you know. And I found some true love in the fellowship, man. Y'all start giving me those hugs, you know, because ain't nobody never hugged me. You know what I mean? In my house, it was a lot of violence. My mother and my stepdad, they fought all the time. You know, he hated me, you know, so I hated the world. You know, and growing up, I grew up bitter. You know, I always thought I was adopted, you know, and I remember writing a letter to my dad and saying that this is not my family. It couldn't be my family because the way they treated me. They always, and that, it carried on into my adulthood of them judging me, and you know, I was the darkest of my siblings, you know, and I was always called black, you know, and stuff like that. And so I didn't have the ability to love. You know, I wasn't taught none of that stuff. All I knew was people, they disliked me, you know, so I disliked the world. You know, and I remember coming out of that marriage, and it was so devastating to me because every place we went to, you know, from state to state, from country to country, you know, because I travel overseas too, and everywhere we went, he beat me, right? So when I finally got out of the marriage, and I always shared, and I said I found another love, and it was drugs, because it couldn't hurt me, you know. I didn't have to feel nothing when I got high, you know. Everything I felt, I was medicated, and I did that for 12 years straight. You know, then I got introduced to the program right in '92. But I came, when I came because everybody said I had a problem, right? But they said it all my life that I had a problem. So shit, I didn't believe that. You know what I mean? And so when I went in treatment and found some people that were willing to help me, but I still didn't stay. You know, but when I came back in 2003 in the home group, Recovery on the Corner, their love, I came in, and they surrounded me with love. They're the one that brought me up here when I first came up here. And when I came up here, and that guy had 40 years clean, the one that wrote The Vicious Cycle in the book, and I met him, and he gave me a book and signed the book and gave me a picture of the First World Service Office, you know, and it did something to my spirit, you know, and people was hugging me, you know, and I was like, they hugging around here? Something wrong with these people. You know what I mean? And then y'all told me y'all was gonna love me till I learned to love myself. You know, and so I kept coming. And I was making meetings, and I started feeling better about myself. You know, and then but I thought when I got here, I ain't smoking no more dope, so I'm fine, right? But the dope was just 5% of my problem, because I had some embedded issues that I had never dealt with. You know, the abandonment of my father, the molestation, the dislike, the hatred that they had for me, and I couldn't figure out why. One of my siblings used to always pick on me all the time, you know, and call me all kind of names and stuff. Well, he was the one that had molested me, that's why. You know, it made me feel like it was my fault. But I suffered for a long time in my addiction. You know, a lot of times, you know, we use, because there be some internal stuff that we have never dealt with, you know, and I realized I hadn't dealt with nothing in my life. I just medicated for years. So when I got clean and all the stuff started showing up, you know, and I had to do something about it. So I got in a step study group. Then I got with some women, because I was always afraid of women, because guess what? I didn't trust them, because I didn't trust myself. You know, because I know that in my addiction, if you said, if I thought you loved me, or I said I loved you because you gave me something, you know what I'm saying? You have to give me something. And I love you, yeah. If you give me some dope, yeah, I love you. You know what I'm saying? You give me some money, yeah, I love you, yeah. You know what I'm saying? But that's how it was, because that's the only thing I knew. But when I came in the program, and you guys said y'all love me, in the beginning I didn't understand, and they loved me for me. They weren't trying to do nothing with me or nothing like that, but I thought that because that's what I was used to. And they would take me around to different places and different conventions and stuff, You know, and then I look back and I was saying that they really care about me. You know what I mean? So, and I came and I stayed. And I just started dealing with my inside issues, you know. But it took a while. It took a while. You know, I remember kind of still blame people for me getting high. You know, some of that part I was a volunteer in. I ain't gonna say everything was on other people. I became a volunteer in a lot of situations, you know. But I'm grateful to the program that allows me to change and allowed me to be free in my mind, you know. Because for so many years, I still was a prisoner in my own mind, you know, with a legend in my own mind. But I'm grateful to know that you can love me without any conditions, and I can love you without any condition. Because it had to be something you had to give me for me to love you. You know, like I said, that was all I knew. I didn't know nothing else. I wasn't taught nothing. My mother, she didn't say she loved me. My dad, when he was dying, that's when I found out that he loved me. You know what I mean? We weren't taught this. So how can you give something that you've never been taught? I wasn't taught that stuff, so I wasn't given that. So I grew up in a lot of pain for years. But when I got here, and I thank God for the program of Narcotics Anonymous, because without this, where the hell would I be? You know what I'm saying? Without the where would I really be?
That's right.
You know, I probably would still out there you know, if I hadn't met y'all and y'all love me, I probably would still be out there struggling trying to get in here. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, the war is over. You know, I ain't got to get high no matter what. But I love y'all unconditionally. You know what I mean? With nothing attached. You ain't got to give me nothing but a hug.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And it took a while to get to that point because, like I said, even with men, you know, even with my first husband, you know, and my second husband, you know, you had to give me something. You know what I'm saying? For real. You know, you have to take care of me. Then I'll love you. You know, but all that was garbage. You know, I just thank God that God allowed me to have a husband today that loves me in spite of all my defects. You know what I'm saying? And we don't have no condition on our marriage. You know what I mean? We work and we both work. We both give each other 100% if we can. You know, and I ain't never had that kind of relationship with nobody in my life. Nobody, even my church, my kid's father, with nobody. You know, so God finally answered my prayer. You know, and I'm blessed to have a young man in my life that loves me in spite of. Because I still have internal issues. Because once you've been hurt from the core, it takes a whole lot of time to get clean on the inside. A whole lot of time. You know, and I got here and I thought, well, okay, I'm clean, so, you know, everything is fine. Then I showed up for real. You know, and it wasn't a pretty picture when I showed up. You know, I was still acting out in meetings, acting crazy in meetings, because I didn't know no better. You know, all my life I had been going to psychiatrists since I was a little girl. I had always acted out all my life on my behavior, because I always wanted attention. I never got that. I didn't get that when I was at home.
That's right.
It was 8 of us. Somebody had to lose out on something, and it was me. And I couldn't understand why my mother loved my sisters more than she loved me. I couldn't understand that one. I just couldn't. Even when we had children, she loved not my sons. She loved my nieces and nephews more than she loved my children. So it went down to them too. And I couldn't understand that for the world. Why? What did I do so bad? You know what I mean? Because I looked just like my dad. And I realized she hated him that much that I suffered through it because she hated him. And I vowed myself I wouldn't do my sons like that. And I didn't. Well, but I did worse because I used dope. I used drugs. And I forgot about them. And through all that, they still love me unconditionally. My son told me, I forgive you, Ma. You know what that made me feel? Before I came to the program in 2003, they said we were trying to plot to figure out how to get our mother back. Because I had been gone for so long, but I was in the same city they was in. But I was gone mentally for so long. So when I surrendered to the program, I surrendered in my heart because I found something that I could be in that could help me with my dilemma.
That's right.
Right? Because I ain't using dope no more, but I still got issues. You know? I try to get the best I can. But how can you get something when you never had it? You know what I mean? So I work on that. I work on that on a regular basis. You know, my mother died, I had a year clean when she died, right? You know, and I never got a chance to tell her that I forgive her. I never got that chance to tell her that. But I just wanted to know why she made a difference in her kids. We all came from you.
That's right.
But I couldn't figure out why she made a difference in her girls. Then I realized why. Well, was he that terrible to you for you to give it to me? You know what I'm saying? I just thank God that He allows us to have a program where I can talk about that stuff.
Amen.
Where I can get rid of that stuff. Because it'll keep you sick for years. For a long time in this process, I was just clean. I was clean. And I stayed here with clean time.
Sure.
It wasn't no recovery, it was clean time. Because I was doing crazy stuff, I really was. Because I didn't know it was an inside job.
Come on.
I didn't know I had to turn some stuff over. I didn't know I had to surrender on a regular basis. But I give it my all. I want this program to the best of my ability, not yours or nobody else, to the best of my ability.
That's right.
I don't put no more on me than I can bear. I made a promise to myself that guess what? Because I do a lot of service work in my area, right? I'm a co-activity chair, I'm a programming chair, I'm on DACNA, ticket and registration, a whole lot of stuff, right? But all that stuff is to cover up what you need to really to work on. So I promised myself, guess what? This is what I'm gonna start doing. If I got something to do on one day, I'm just gonna do what I gotta do on that one day. I'm not gonna crowd myself on with a whole lot of garbage, right? So now I got a bunch of women that we meet once every month on a Friday. And we talk about those issues. Those embedded issues that we don't want to talk about, right? And it's been helping me. It's been helping me to grow. It's been helping me to love another woman when I couldn't stand your asses. But it allows me to be with a group of women for real. And sit out and we talk about some deep stuff.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? I gotta go down in on the inside of my stomach and get that stuff out of me. You know, it said the ability to love was sharpening. Drugs took all of it. I already know how to love when I got dope. I really didn't know how to love nothing but the dope. Because it didn't give me a problem. It didn't make me feel sad. I was high all the time. You know what I mean? But one day I had to come down, had to come out of that stuff. But I thank God He allowed me to come out of it. You know, some people don't get this opportunity. They just don't. I got a young lady I was sponsoring, right? And it's a bunch of us that we do this on a regular basis. We go to each other's house and we have cookouts, right? And we talk about recovery, right? Because I can't go over to my relative's house with a cookout because they still drinking and smoking weed. And I don't play with it. So we get together and I was sponsoring this young lady and she used. That tore me up. Because that's how close we were. But a lot of times when we go out, it's because we haven't worked on a whole lot of stuff we need to work on. We just be clean.
Come on.
It's more, look, it's more than just acting for drugs. You got to do some work, internally work you have to do. You can't just come and say, well, I'm clean and that's it. That ain't going to work. It might work for a little while. for a little while, but after that, but when you start showing up, you're going to do some work. You're going to do some work in here, or you're going to go back out there. And I don't never want to get again in my life. I'm telling you, I don't never want to use. This is the best I ever lived, man. I love y'all today.
That's right. We love you too, baby.
Because I'm telling you, I hug y'all. My family don't even hug me. They don't tell me, they don't give me no hugs. But they'll call on me to do some stuff for them. Because I'm responsible today. That's why. You know what I'm saying? But they don't tell me they love me. They love what I can do for them. Or what I can give them. But I had to stop that. Because they was using me. They were using me. When I was getting high, y'all didn't want to be bothered with me. Now I ain't getting high no more. Everybody want to come over. No. No. My life was peaceful.
Come on. That's right.
I'm through with all that chaos. Even on the inside too. Because you can still be a wreck on the inside if you ain't doing no internal work.
That's right. Come on.
See, I know why I use drugs. Cause look, you didn't wake up and say, well, I guess I'm gonna be a crackhead. I'm gonna be a dope pusher. I'm gonna be a prostitute. That wasn't my plan. But when people violated me as a young woman, I covered that stuff up. I had to cover it up with something.
That's right.
And dope was my best friend. Cause when you get numb, because you don't think about nothing, you gotta worry about nothing. You're responsible for nothing. You know. But thank God for change.
Thank God. Yes.
I'm telling you, this is a wonderful program. What you put in, what you get out. You don't put nothing in here, you ain't get nothing out of it. You know, it's like going to the bank. I want to get some money out of my account and I ain't got a damn in there. I ain't putting nothing in there. How you going to get some out? So I learned to ask for help. They'll tell you, Robin will tell you, when I first got here how I was. But I ran with them. Because they looked like they was getting it in. So I was running with them. Everywhere they went, I want to go too. You know what I'm saying? Because I ain't never lived like that. And I told them before the dope, right? Because I done been around the world before the dope. But I'm telling you, having some peace and some serenity in my life. I didn't have that stuff. All that was gone. I ain't had no morals. That was gone. The program allowed me to get some morals back, some understanding back. Before I got here, I didn't have a purpose in life. I didn't have no meaning. Today I got purpose and I got meaning. I'm responsible on my job.
That's right.
And I work with people in law enforcement. Me? And they love me. And I wear my shirt proud. A recovery shirt to work. Cause dig this. Half of them in that unit use drugs. I'm talking from the top on down. And I know this. So whenever look, when we want to have a picnic, go ahead, Felicia. I ain't say your name, but y'all can have a picnic over there. And they don't charge me nothing. But that comes through the program.
Come on.
My supervisor, I love her to death. She's like a sponsor to me. She know, she's not in the program, but I can talk to her. That's a woman I can talk to too. But you gotta find somebody who's gonna help you in this program. I didn't know how to love nobody. What's that? That's foreign. If you beat me, then you love me. Does that make sense? But I thought that for years. He don't love me unless he beat me. In every state I went to, I got beat. And I stayed. He said, ain't nobody gonna ever love you. And I believed that for years. But oh boy, God got a program that'll turn all that around. Turn it all around. I'm grateful for the program, and I'm telling you, we're a special group of people. Ain't nothing like us. come through the horrors of addiction and can be here sharing your life story. What do you know? You can go and get I fucked up, but I'm back. You know what I'm saying? Where can you go? I can't even go to my church and say that. I'm recovering that. They be grabbing it, purse, ass, and you know what I mean?
That's right.
This is an awesome program, man, I tell you. Look, I would have never dreamed this. When I came here the first time, 6 months, it was almost 11 years late. This is a bad program. We some bad people.
That's right. Come on.
When we get together as on one accord, ain't nothing like it. The love that we have for each other ain't nothing like it.
That's right.
I just said my family members don't love me like y'all do. Man, I tell you, I ain't never lived this good. And it's peaceful. This peaceful, man, I tell you. This is peace and serenity right here. You know what I mean? I hate the tree that I'm broke, I heard. That's all I was telling them about. These are my friends I brought here for the first time. I was talking about the tree we gonna go see. You know, but it's just the love of God.
Amen.
On this land, y'all.
Yes.
This is something. Who would have thought? From different races, different part of the world. God brought us all together. That's love. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
It ain't nothing like it, man. Ain't nothing like it. You know, today's a good day. Without the use of drugs.
Say that.
It's a great day. Without the use of dope, man. We all couldn't be in this room and they all getting half. It'd be a fight in here. You know what I'm saying? I could have left my purse there with open. Home. Man, I tell you, God is so good. I'm getting better. I get a daily reprieve. A daily reprieve. I'm talking from the madness too. Not only from dope, but from that inside wreckness that I've been working on, man. I'm telling you, I love my husband. I'm telling you, God is awesome. I'm gonna share this and close. It's that we do recover. When at the end of the road, we find that we can no longer function as a human being, either with or without drugs. We all face the same dilemma. What is there left to do? There seems to be this alternative, either going as best we can to the bitter ends, jails, institution of death, or find a new way to live. In years gone by, very few addicts ever had this last choice. Those who are addicted today are more fortunate. For the first time in man's entire history, a simple way has been proven itself in the lives of many addicts. It is available to us all. This is a simple, spiritual, not religious program known as Narcotics Anonymous. Thank you.
Our next speaker, I forgot. Brian, would you like to come here?
In case I needed any humility. I'm an addict named Brian. I love this convention. This is my favorite convention. You guys really took really good care of me when I really needed you to, and I have a lot of gratitude for that. I'm really grateful to be able to speak. I know I've spoken before, and if you spend any time around me, I kind of just keep on talking. So I am grateful for you guys allowing me to come up here and talk again. I hope it's worth the time. So when I was my mom died 2 years ago. Yeah, this is another thing you probably get sick of hearing me talk about. My mom died 2 years ago, and I feel like I had made pretty good peace with her. Before she passed away, I had done my part. I'd made my amends, and I'd shown her the respect she deserved. But I hadn't appreciated what she did for me, what her role was for me in my life, so before I came to Narcotics Anonymous, I had problems. I mean, before I started using, before I earned my seat, I had problems before I started getting high. When I was a kid, I only know this stuff from 4 steps, right? By the time I was 6 years old, I couldn't stand myself. I was embarrassed by myself around other people. I knew how I wanted to act, and I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to make people like me. I didn't understand how to like myself, so I didn't even know what that relationship looked like. I was, and this part's, I'm sure, very startling to you. I was extraordinarily hyper. When I was a kid, I was extraordinarily hyper. I had no idea how to control myself. I acted impulsively on a regular basis. I did things that were immediately embarrassing, and I hated myself for it. I hated myself for how impulsive I was. And as I got older and as I got into my teenage years, and now I know that it's the winter that does it to me, but nobody could have known that back then. And even as a kid, I would go through bouts of major depression, and this is no drugs. This is before using, right? And I would go through these bouts of major depression and hating myself and feeling alone in an entire universe that hated me. I had no idea what God was or how to feel it. And when I was a teenager, I waited for my friends to leave the house that day, and I, busted out a box of razor blades, and I started gouging at my wrist, and I cut until I hit something, and it started just bleeding real bad. And I figured that was it. That's what I was going for. Now, I can't tell you, honest to God, I can't tell you if I wanted to die or if I just really wanted attention. I don't know that. I really can't say. Either way, it's not all right, And I did it till I thought that was enough, and then I put my head on the desk and I went to sleep because I was feeling pretty lightheaded, and I thought that was it, and it wasn't. I woke up, and my little sister found me, in this big old pool of blood, and was absolutely just totally distraught and called 911, and I'm all nonchalant about it, just a jerk, just a total jerk, not any consideration about how that might affect her finding her older brother. Laying in a pool of blood. And a pool of blood, like, you have no idea how much of that crap is in us, man. Oh my God, and the reason I'm still alive is because I hit a vein and not an artery, and veins heal.
Okay.
So this is my side of the story, and then they brought me to the hospital, and I went back to the institution I had been at before. I went to mental institution 3 times as a teenager before I ever touched drugs. So here's the side of the story I found out from my sister after Mom passed away. I guess while I was cutting on myself, I don't remember this, but I believe it to be true because I did, I have attention-seeking tendencies. And while I was cutting on myself, I had taken a break to go get something to drink, and I had tracked blood all through the house, back to the kitchen and back up the stairs. So there's just blood everywhere. And Sheila thinks I did it on purpose, and I don't doubt that, that's where I was at that time. But for my mom to come home, to get a call from work, you have to come home from work, your son tried to commit suicide, and to come home to this house that's just it's blood everywhere, right? And my sister told me that after I was gone, because I'm in my own little world, selfish own little world, off at the mental hospital, poor me, seeing which meds they're going to put me on and stitching up my wrist and all this other stuff. And meanwhile, my mom is at home cleaning up that giant puddle of blood, crying and gagging and just trying to hold it together and and just talking out loud to my kid sister, 13-year-old girl, and my mom just cleaning it up saying, what am I supposed to do? That's unconditional love. Because the next day she's visiting me. And she never told me that. She never said, this is how bad you're hurting me. She showed up to support me after I made her spend hours cleaning up that crap. And I didn't know what it felt like to be on the giving end of unconditional love until my son was born. And he was born early. He was 10 weeks premature. She had a placental abruption, and they did an emergency C-section. And he was 2.5 pounds, and he was tiny, man. He was tiny, and he was covered in like fur, like he wasn't cooked yet, They were giving him shots of steroids. I mean, this is really high risk, right? Right before they delivered him, they're shooting her up with steroids to try to get the lungs to the point where he'll be able to take a breath on his own, which may or may not happen, And when they did the C-section, they took him away, and there's no, way too quiet in the corner. There's like 3 dudes with their backs to me, and they're just working over there, and however many seconds it was like 7 hours of 3 seconds worth of 7 hours, and then he finally cried, but we weren't allowed to touch him because his nervous system wasn't developed yet, and if you touched him, he'd flinch like you were hitting him, and you couldn't feed him normal. He had a tube going down his nose into his stomach, and we would hold him and have the syringe, and we'd hold him above his head. I wanted an abortion. I did not want to be a parent. I thought that God was an idiot. Because you're supposed to be all-knowing and omnipotent. If you're so smart, why in God's name, no pun intended, but why are you making a father out of me? Like I had nothing to do with it. And I resented her for being pregnant. This is. I got a year clean. I got no idea of what it's like to have any consideration for another human being. I resented her for being pregnant. How dare you? And because she wouldn't get an abortion. That was the thing. Like, if you don't get an abortion, then you're forcing this upon me, and how dare you? And all I could think about is how this was going to affect me and how upset I was about this whole thing. And when he was born, so sick and so broken and so little, and they had to keep him in this plastic box for 6 weeks. And I can remember, like, right after, I can't remember if it was right before or right after he was born, but I'd gone out to the parking garage to have it was right after, because I had seen him. And I went up to the top line of this parking garage to have a cigarette and to talk to God. And I'm like, I'm such a dick. I see this kid he may die. They don't even know if he's going to live or not. And I was wishing that upon him. I was looking at this. I was thinking of this tiny life and wishing death upon it because of the inconvenience. That I didn't want to have to be a dad. And here I am at the top of this parking garage, and I hadn't had a conversation, a real conversation. I'm not sure if this wasn't my first conversation with God, where I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Just let him live. Okay, I fucked up. Pardon me, my French. I'm sorry. Okay, I screwed up. And I won't. I'll be good. Whatever I got to do, just let the little kid live, Like, this is serious now. This is big league now, man. Like, this isn't messing around anymore. Like, this is other people's lives. This is a kid. This is real. And all of a sudden, this all swells over me. The awesome power of responsibility of recovery now. I'm not just some idiot kid that doesn't wear shoes and doesn't know how to hold a job. And I am now a father, whether I want to be or not. And I have an obligation. I'm not high anymore, so I don't get to hide from my feelings anymore, and I have to do this. And I'm having all this. This is all happening to me. I didn't ask for this to happen to me. This all happened to me. There was nothing that had to occur in order for this to happen to me. It was unconditional. And I didn't realize how powerful that was to have, I say have to be on the giving end, but it is. As a parent, you have to be on the giving end. I don't have a say in it. I didn't ask to feel this way about Corey. I just do. And that was the beginning of my recovery. And here I am saying God's an idiot and he has no idea what he's doing. I'm not sure I would be clean if he hadn't been born. I'm not sure I would be clean if I hadn't had that moment on that parking garage roof where I suddenly realized how serious this was and how much I mattered. It took another person's life to make me realize how much I mattered. I would have never known that I mattered if it hadn't been for other people. Which is why we can't recover alone, which is why we can't do this by ourselves, which is why I'm not allowed to say I don't need meetings anymore and I should be all right because I've already learned what I need to learn. I will unlearn this so fast. I will unlearn this so fast. And I'm still I haven't sworn at a podium in over a decade. I'm still like guilty. Like, damn it, man, what a streak! You just broke. Damn it. Feelings. Jimmy last night mentioned agape, right? And that's that unconditional love. It's love without a requirement. It's love without emotional expectation or return. It's love for your brother. I was the first place I was hugged by a man was Narcotics Anonymous, and the sponsor I had for 13 years was a black guy that I saw walk out of a meeting. I didn't know him from a can of paint, but I needed a sponsor, and he was the last guy. Everybody else had said no. Just to give you some perspective on what I was like when I was new, everyone else had said no. So I asked, so when I was outside crying on the power transformer, sitting up on that green thing outside that home group, and I asked everybody, and the girl said, "Well, you haven't asked everybody." I said, "I have asked everybody," and then out walks Phil, and she said, "Did you ask him?" I'm like, "All right, challenge accepted." I didn't know who he was. I didn't know his name. I just said, I asked him because then he was my sponsor for 13 years. And he introduced me to Sponsy family meetings. So it was at a Sponsy family meeting. I'm out in the city. My addiction didn't require such travels. So I'm not in familiar territory. And they have some just gigantic black dude just grab me and hug me and go, "I love you, man." And I was like, okay. But the thing is that so often we talk about agape and we talk about our fellowship and what we need to do for each other and what it means to be like in a real relationship. And I'm gonna just step on the very tippity piece of your toe for your husband's sake, because you said he loves you in spite of you, and I don't believe that. I think he loves you because you're you. You know what I mean? And that's what it talks about. It says in our book, eventually we get to the point that people love us because of who we are, not in spite of who we are, And so there, I hope you don't mind. I'm sorry about it. Because seriously, if my wife loved me in spite of what I was, I'm afraid she wouldn't have been able to hold out this long. There's no way she'd have hung around this long if that was the case. But here's the other thing, like when we talk, and I'm going to talk about God. I'm going to talk about my higher power. I call him God. I'm going to talk about my relationship with him. None of this is true. It's just mine. Yeah. It doesn't have to be true for you at all. It can be, but if you take my truth and run with it, then it's still not your own anyways. You got to come to your own.
That's right.
If something sounds like it might work for you, then take it and talk about it a lot and think about it a lot and let your higher power let you know if it is. But this is just what I've come to, and what I've learned is the less I understand about my higher power, the better off I am. Because the moment I decide what my higher power is, I'm already on the wrong track. Because then I decide I know what it thinks and what it wants and all this other stuff, and now it gets creepy because he tends to want what I want him to want me to want, so I got to watch out for that, But what we're doing when we're trying to show each other unconditional love in the fellowship is we are doing our best to fail at emulating the unconditional love that comes from God. That I can't even begin to wrap my head around. I'm not even going to try. That's a fool's errand. But I always leave out a huge portion of this, and that is the unconditional love that I'm supposed to be showing myself. That the whole point of this is to learn how to be okay with who I am. Hold on. There's a thing in here. It says, we can finally look another human being in the eye and be grateful for who we are. And it doesn't say be okay with who we are. It says to be grateful for who we are. That means we're actually supposed to like ourselves. Not tolerate ourselves, not love ourselves in spite of who we are, but to actually love ourselves for who we are. We can get that. That can happen. We can actually like ourselves. And I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I make mistakes. I have an amazing capacity to shove my foot in my mouth at magical times, magical perfect timing on this stuff, You know, but the unconditional love that exists just in the universe, that's out there for us to take, for us to just reach it and touch it and taste it and feel it. It's not like it just appeared because I got clean. It's been here from the very beginning, you know. Narcotics Anonymous doesn't hold the market on spiritual principles. We didn't invent this stuff. We just figured out a way to trick ourselves into learning it. You know, we had to convince ourselves that the only reason we're learning, you know, I wouldn't have ever learned this if I wasn't an addict. We don't actually know that, you know what I mean? But this was the way we learned it. Yeah. And I truly believe, you know, we were talking last night about all the horrible things we think were bad that end up being awesome. You know, my old man reminds me all the time, even the good things are blessings. Yeah. Obviously. Even the bad things are blessings. You know, and because we don't know what's going to come at the end. And that's right. And it says, as we seek our personal contact with God, we begin to open up as a flower in the sun. And I think that that's a powerful visual to consider because it's a natural thing. But it was natural that was closed to begin with, too. And I think that that's an important aspect of that analogy, is that flowers are supposed to they start closed and then they open. And that was my progress in recovery has been a natural progression. It's been that way for exactly the reason it needed to be that way, whatever that reason may be. You know, sometimes people say God has a plan. I think a plan's a human construct. We're already screwing up the moment we say God has a plan. I need to plan things. If God is everyone, everywhere, and everything, you know, he's every when, man. You know what I mean? What kind of plan do you need if you're every when? You know? It says we begin to see that God's love has been present all the time and just waiting for us to accept it. We do the footwork and accept what's being given to us freely and on a daily basis. Self-esteem is the hardest thing I had to work on in recovery. That's the hardest thing. I will do service work to help other people. I will put myself out of my way to help other people. I will say that it's, you know, self-sacrificing, but sometimes it's far worse than that. And somebody once told me that the most powerful form of manipulation is actually called people-pleasing. We don't realize it's manipulation at the time. We think it's just a bad thing because we're people-pleasing. So we're giving too much of ourselves for others. But the reverse is the truth. It's manipulation. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to make sure you feel the way I want you to feel.
That's right.
I want you to feel a certain way about me. I want you to feel a certain way about NA. I want you to feel a certain way about whatnot. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to make you feel that way. And the best part is I can make it look like it's altruistic to a fault. You know, like I can somehow make it sound like I'm, a martyr for having done so. There's nothing worse than me, the martyr. You know, like give me a reason to feel sorry for myself, and it's just the most fantastic parade. I mean, I'm a wuss. I lost my voice for a while last night, and there's at least half of you in this room that knew that within 20 minutes of it happening, because I just got to tell the whole world the moment anything bad happens to Brian. Oh my God, I lost my voice. Did you know I lost my voice? Hey, Mark, what's up? I lost my voice. Oh my God, can you believe it? I don't know, I lost my voice. You know, I have just absolutely ridiculous attention-seeking tendencies, you know. But I cannot take the risk of feeling sorry for myself. There's a difference between, because here's the thing, I can become codependent in a room all by myself with me, right? I don't need anybody to be codependent. If I'm codependent as a habit, I will happily be codependent by myself. I will give myself excuses to do stupid things. I will do things for myself, you know, after the fact. You know, I should have done this and I didn't, so now after the fact, I'm going to do something for myself so I feel better about not having done what I was supposed to do. How do I get a reward for doing the wrong thing? But you just got to think about it right, and it's okay. And that's not love, you know. That's not love. You know, I love my boys. I have a stepson and a son, and my stepson drives me out of my mind. He's 17 years old, and I have the unrealistic expectation that he's going to use reason and judgment. And I have an unrealistic expectation that he's going to do things that make sense, or that he's gonna, you know what I mean? Like, and sometimes he does, so that's cool, right on. But he's 17, you know? He's 17 years old. And as much as I want to be mad at him, when I think about where I was at 17, that brother is right on track. He's doing awesome, you know? He's still in high school? Right on, man, way to go. She says, he's not getting good grades, and I have to stop myself. Like, I have to stop using the same, like, you know, his grades could be better. I'm like, yeah, but he's getting graded. You know, like, that's pretty cool, right? we're going to our high school, our 20-year high school reunion in August, and I still have to go as a guest to my wife because I got kicked out halfway through senior year. And they don't invite me. So I guess I'm not alumni because I didn't finish. I have 3.5 years of high school under my belt. But I got to remember that when I'm trying to give him a hard time, and realize that. And here's the thing: I do love Skylar. I'm so mad half the time that I forget to tell him. And then because we say it so rarely, it's so awkward when I try to say. I'll be like, "Hey, man, just so you know, I know that we have our differences, but I do love you and I wish the best for you." And he goes, "Okay." I said, "I just want you know." I said, "I know I'm tough on you sometimes, but I'm tough on you because I care, man. It's my job to turn you into a man. It's my job to show you what it's like to be a responsible man, and so I know that you're not going to like that, and that's okay." And he goes, "Sure." But he gives me the one shoulder. Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. And I could go on for a whole half hour just the madness of Skylar and the goofiness he does, but I'm sure somebody could have gone a hell of a lot longer on the madness of me and what I did when I was that age. So I'm just gonna leave the poor kid alone, man. It's too easy. It's too easy. What you guys have taught me is that it's okay to be me, and I still have things about myself that I don't like or I think are no good, and I'm reminded that character defects are characteristics that we twist and mangle to an unreasonable and unjustifiable level. It's things we take too far. In and of themselves, they're not bad. They're just characteristics. If I like to talk, that's not a character defect unless I'm not letting anybody else do it too. Yeah. She's over here like, yeah, absolutely. It's not if I'm only taking pauses to allow you to talk for a second, so I'm just waiting to talk again. Like okay, this is the part where I stop for a second, and then they say blah 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 blah, and then okay, this is what I'm gonna say next. No, that's not okay. It's okay to like being in the center. If it wasn't okay to be the center of attention, then we would have nobody doing theater, nobody doing present. You know what I mean? Like there's not a problem with that. It's when I do negative things in order to get attention. That's when it's no good. So realizing that and getting to a point where, I really am okay with who I am. I used to operate for many years clean, and my sponsor scolds me and he says I have to make sure I give out my stats when I'm at the podium because there's always somebody who's looking to relate, and you never know which person's going to click. I got clean when I was 20 years old. I have 16 years clean. I have not relapsed. I sponsor Men in Narcotics Anonymous. I go to meetings weekly, and I have lost the desire to use. I have freedom from active addiction on a daily basis. I don't have to worry about staying clean till I'm forever years old. That's totally irrelevant. It's totally irrelevant, and it would be audacious and inappropriate for me to claim that I'm going to stay clean for the rest of my life. That's not the point. So my sponsor always says, make sure you say that you have time and that you got clean young. So you guys, that. But it's taken a long time for me to realize that, it's okay to be who I am, that I have to learn to have unconditional love for myself. There's a difference between being cocky and overly prideful and boastful and actually just being okay with who you are. Because once I'm okay with who I am, creepy people can say whatever the hell they want to say about me.
Wow.
They can say whatever they want, And it gets amusing when it's really far off base. When they say something just completely. Some lady at work was mad because I'm a supervisor at work, and she didn't like, her and this other girl are fighting. This other lady and her are upset with each other. Now I went and talked to person A, had a conversation, said what I need to say, and I talked to person B. Person B wants to know what I said to person A. Well, it's not your problem. It's not your business. Don't assume I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Don't worry about it. Just know that we're addressing it and we're moving forward. So after that, she's still mad. So she's off in the hallway telling people. A few minutes later, I get one of my people telling me, she said, well, he favors her. He's probably having an affair with her. Awesome. Like, that's so awesome. Like, run that. Just keep going. Like, just go with your instinct. See where it can bring you. How good can this get, That's what you say. Whatever you want to say. You can never say whatever you want to say, man. It has no bearing on. And once again, what other people say about me when I'm not there is none of my business. So that's if I'm going to learn how to be, unconditionally care for myself. It means that I can't create the conditions of whether or not other people, think I'm a good person. We are not allowed to use other people to justify our feelings. We can't be external about what we think about ourselves, because that's what we've been doing all along, is trying to find stuff outside ourselves and make us feel better about our insides. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. I'm trying to figure out if this philosophy already exists, and if it's not, I'm gonna write a book. I'm never gonna write a book. So if you like this, steal it and write a book. We have this thing where we just want to want things. We don't actually want to get them, right? We don't want things. We just want to want things. Because pick something you want, right? Now, if you go get it, what happens? We want something else. So it wasn't the thing. It was just you like wanting. I like wanting things. I want to want things. That's it. So if I can just stop right there and just enjoy wanting things, I'm in great shape. I'm downright Buddhist. You know what I mean? Like, I'm cool. I don't need anything. I just look at stuff I want and think about it, The problem is that anything that makes me happy, I take too far, so I can't stop there. I end up obsessing about stupid stuff that either I shouldn't have or can't have, or it wouldn't do me any good anyways. And I get convinced that something outside of myself is going to make me feel better,
That's right.
So I can't. I have to remember that, and that's the whole point, I guess, is to say that the unconditional love that God showers down, that exists everywhere. Whatever God is, whatever it is I'm never going to understand, I'm never going to understand. All I know is that when I stop and take a minute, I feel it everywhere. I feel it. It's there. And if I'm wrong, right on. Man, right on. I probably should be wrong. I shouldn't be trying to spend that much time. You know what I mean? And if you're an atheist and you're in Narcotics Anonymous, I'll be happy to sit down and have a conversation with you about how, a secular perspective on the steps. Because the steps work, right? Internal combustion engines work. I get in my car, I drive it to work every day. I have no idea how that damn engine works. Not relevant. It works. I don't have to understand it, right? So, and I know people who are atheists who have gotten clean in Narcotics Anonymous and stayed clean, and they're able to have a secular perspective on the steps that works for them. It's there, man. They work. They work. They are a proven step, of behaviors that you can take that make our lives better. And for me, from my perspective, I'm not an atheist, but my perspective is God works whether I think he works, whether I hate him, whether I think he's a bum, whether I think it's a lie, whatever I think, it still works. He doesn't need me to think it works, to make it work.
Wow.
That'd be awful. So it always does. I don't have to understand it, I just have to do it. If you're new and you're just getting into steps, or if you've been here for a while and you feel like you haven't gotten enough of the benefits of the program, you're not sure what the hype is about, challenge yourself to do more. More step works. Write some stuff down. The number one thing we say is, recovering addicts is, I don't like to write. I don't like to write. That is the crappiest reason to not get better in the whole world. Especially when you could literally turn on your phone and be like, okay, Google, and just start talking, and it will write it for you. You could, there's so many things you could do. You could type. We all type 900 words a minute now. Have you ever noticed, when I try to use a pencil now, my hand cramps up in 3 minutes. I'm like, because all I do is type. So, I don't have, so what's more important, feeling the benefits of the program or whether or not I'm going to write something down? Writing stuff down is awesome. It's a good way to get perspective on things, you have to get outside ourselves to get perspective. I can't get perspective internally. It has to come out. I need other people. I need a piece of paper. I need these things to make it better. So if you feel like you're not getting the benefits of the program enough yet, get into those steps, do them more, do awful step work, do lots of terrible step work. Just do a terrible job, and then do the next one terrible, do them all, do 12 piss poor steps, and then go back and do 12 more piss poor steps, because we will use these excuses. Perfectionism is one of our primary excuses for not doing step work. I'm still on my third step, I don't fully understand it. That's the best understanding of a third step I've ever heard. You know what I'm saying? That's the awesome one. Don't worry about 4. 4 is nothing. 6, that's wonky right there. That's the one that'll have some fun with you. But that's fine, man. That's what, the reason I've worked hard on my steps, and I'm not, there's plenty of people in here that have done a ton of step work in this room right now. I'm not unique. I've done a ton of step work, and I do it because I know that something good comes at the end of it. I can't tell you what it's going to be for you, but I can promise you that the second 4th step I wrote had stuff on it that the first 4 step did not have because I didn't remember it. Because I was physically and mentally incapable of recalling that information the first time through. I wasn't ready. Physically wasn't ready. Whatever synapses had to fire to make me remember that awful feeling, it wasn't ready. My brain wasn't cleared yet. It takes for some people, it takes a couple of years to get through that post-acute period where, the toothpaste cap hits the ground and you lose your mind and want to tear down the house because you're so angry. That takes time to go away, and sometimes you can't get to what you need. But the steps are amazing. The fact that you're willing to do it, my willingness to do steps is how I get better. If I do awful step work, the fact that I was willing to do it and I was able to move through it, it's that willingness that'll let me listen to somebody that I may think I don't particularly like. But I can't close off where the message is going to come from. It's egocentric. I have no idea where it's going to come from. And it's so good, guys. It's so good. If you stay in Narcotics Anonymous, I am losing a lot of friends and associates right now to alcohol. Our reading says alcohol is a drug. We talk about it all the time, but they're like, as long as I don't shoot dope, I'll be okay. They're not leaving because Narcotics Anonymous didn't do anything for them. They're leaving because they forgot that they had to do something for somebody else. If I stop having sponsees, if I stop being a part of the chain, I will lose being that conduit, and I will lose that connection, and I will forget where I came from. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful to be here this weekend. Every single time I'm up here, I am restored in a way. I know this year I almost didn't come because I wanted to be a good husband. Next year I'm going to be a bad husband. I just tell her I'm going. I gotta be here, man. I gotta be here. I love it. And I would have never known what unconditional love felt like. I would have never been in a position to find out what my mother did for me. And I would have never been in a position to be a real father if it hadn't been for the opening, just the tiny opening that was made in my soul because of the unbelievable concern and care that you guys gave me the first time I came to a meeting pissed drunk and picked up my 0-day key tag. Thanks, I'll keep coming back.
Okay, thanks to speakers. We now have a few minutes for any open mic comments, if anyone would like to come up and share on the topic. All right, anybody want to get up here? Come on.
Oh, man. There you go.
I'm Casey, I'm an addict.
Hey.
Late today, I do believe. Today marks 1 year of my father's death and my parents. I gotta say, really, I'm thankful for the program. I'm thankful for Camp Back. Thankful for the family that I have around. I guess my using really it started at a young age. I was always around it. A year ago, it started off with May 22nd of last year. I went back to my father to not make amends, but at least be able to talk and have a better understanding of myself and him. And I was able to go back and realize what childhood was for me, what my whole dad's ideas were to put into both my brother and I. You know, I love my dad, and it's hard. He is what made me who I am today. Is basically, you know, although I was adopted into another family, that doesn't mean anything. But yeah, actually, a year ago today, I used. I not only used, but I took off down the road, kind of a suicidal rampage. I was kind of lost. I didn't quite know what to do in the world. At that time, everything was falling apart for me. I was not doing well at all. But now, you know, yeah, it still hurts. It causes a lot of mental grief and pain. I have to look back on it, you know, as a childhood and how I grew up is, you know, being 20 years old, having a stable living, having a stable life, having a stable family. I'm grateful for how things turned out. I'm grateful for how they were as a childhood. I don't know. I don't know what else to say, guys. Thank you.
All right, we close this group with a hug and prayer.